So let's pick up the Shulchan Aruch. So the copies are there in the middle. Chapter 472, Halacha Tezayin, Halacha number 16. It's the second half of the chapter we were discussing earlier. The first half of this chapter discusses the laws of reclining, which we went through at great length. And the second half of this chapter continues the halachas we just learned from the Gemara, which is the obligation to drink 4 cups of wine, and then continues into the obligation of engaging children, as we learned from the Gemara, as we'll presently see in the rest of the chapter. So halacha 16 through halacha 31. Okay, so let's begin. So the Shulchan Aruch already introduced to us the obligation of drinking 4 cups of wine, because the Shulchan Aruch told us earlier that when are you supposed to recline, right? The first half of the chapter was about reclining, yeah? And the Shulchan Aruch said, when are you to recline? You're to recline during eating matzah and drinking the 4 cups of wine. So we know already now about those 4 cups of wine, right? This is chapter 472. It comes before the description of the Seder night, which is in 473. So we don't know yet how to produce our Seder. We don't know how to do that structure. That's going to come in 473, where it's going to say, drink the first cup of wine, make kiddush, and so on and so forth. But we're learning in prep for that how we're supposed to set ourselves up. Set your table beautifully, because it's got to be freedom. Set your place that you can recline. It's got to be freedom. And make sure you have 4 cups of wine at which you're going to be reclining. So now the Shulchan Aruch is going to tell us the halachas of the 4 cups. What kind of wine has to be, who's obligated in it, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So let's see. Halacha Tezayin. First of all, you should know that you have to drink the 4 cups of wine in the order that we will explain in the next chapters. So we haven't got there yet, but in the next chapters we will describe what the order of drinking the cups are. The first cup of wine, kiddush, the second cup of wine after you finish reciting the story, the third cup of wine when you bench, and the 4th cup of wine when you recite the Hallel. Yes? So it explains. The Hainus means to say, Shebein Koisudishin L'Sheni, between cup 1 and 2, Ubein Shlishi L'Revi, and be cup 3 and 4, Yafsik Ba'midas Haggadah B'Hallel. There should be a separation during which you whoops, what's happening? My text just flew down, sorry. During which you are to recite the Haggadah and the Hallel respectively. Right? Between cup 1 and 2, you recite the Haggadah, and between 2 and 3, you recite the Hallel. Ubein Shlishi L'Shlishi, and between number 2 and 3, Yafsik Ba'chilas Matzah B'Chas HaMazon. You have to make a separation by eating matzah and benching, right? This is the 4 cups. So it's an interesting phrasing. Why is he phrasing it this way as an interruption?
Yeah.
As opposed to phrasing it when you're supposed to drink it, he phrases it by telling you that you have to make interruptions with X items. Why is that? Because what he's getting to is the main halacha here, which is in order to fulfill your obligation for drinking 4 cups of wine, they must be separated. You can't drink them all at once, which you learned in the Gemara. And therefore, as an outgrowth of that, you have to drink them in order with these separations. Okay, this is going to become relevant because if a person, let's say, forgot to drink cups, but Rich said to say there, so they have to read the Haggadah again and to drink the 4 cups of wine, or they just have to make sure there's interruption in between.
It almost seems like the 4 cups are the ikar of the Seder, and then the meal is like a filler to fill those gaps.
Well, it seems that way right now because we're learning the halachas of the 4 cups.
Okay.
When we learn the halachas of the Haggadah, you're going to say the Haggadah is the center, right?
Right.
But yes, but as we define the halachas of the 4 cups, we have to understand that the 4 cups require that they be inserted at the right times.
Right.
With these separations between cup 1 and 2, between 2 and 3, between 3 and 4. And therefore, if we didn't separate between these cups with these items, but rather he drank all 4 cups one after the other, he did not fulfill his obligation to drink 4 cups, as we learned in our Gemara. Rather, it would all be considered just as one big cup. So if I sat down, made kiddush, and then drank 4 cups of wine consecutively, I will have not fulfilled my obligation to drink 4 cups of wine. I only drank 1. That so happens to be split in 4 cups, but it's only 1. And therefore you'd be required to drink another 3 cups in the order that we will explain in the next chapters when we describe the order of the Seder. Okay, so this is the first thing we learn about the 4 cups of wine, which is the 4 cups of wine are not simply a matter of quantity. Drink 4 cups, right? It's not a matter of quantity. Neither is it a matter of drinking 4 different gulps from 4 different cups. Meaning quantity could be, I have 1 big cup that is enough for 4 and I drink the whole thing. Well, that's certainly not what we have to do, as we're going to learn. Moreover, even if I had 4 cups in a row and I drank them one after the other, I also didn't fulfill my obligation to drink 4 cups. So what's the definition of the mitzvah to drink 4 cups? What's the definition of that mitzvah? The mitzvah is then to drink 4 different celebratory consumptions. If I drank them all all in a row, I didn't drink four separate celebratory drinkings.
Right.
I drank 1 extended celebratory drink.
Right.
It just so happens to be with 4 cups, but it's not the 4 cups of wine that's obligated here.
Right.
So as an inherent, it's the first halakha that tells us about the drinking of the 4 cups of wine. They have to be separated. That each one be its own consumption. This is actually going to become important later in the Gemara and in the halacha, connected to why we make a bracha hagafen on each of the 4 cups. Even though you didn't bench between cup 1 and 2, and you didn't bench between cup 3 and 4, yet you still make a new hagafen. Because each one is a separate action of enjoying another freedom of expressed in a cup of wine. And if it must be separated by these items, if not, you just drank 1 cup, even though you technically drank 4 cups of wine. But there's only one celebratory activity. Yeah. So this is the first halacha, which again we learned in our Gemara that it has to be separated. You can't drink them all in one row. Halacha 17. Each of these 4 cups of wine, should be hey boy like pachas midavias yayin. There has to be no less than at least a revius of wine. A revius is a quarter of a lug, which is, I think it's roughly about here in footnote 71. They're right. It's 86. Okay, 2.9 fluid ounces. Not a lot, but that's the minimum of how much has to be in your cup of wine. After it's been diluted, which again, our wine is diluted.
So it's 2.9 ounces of chaim.
Of what?
Chaim, what did it say?
What do you mean chaim?
Like that's like the non-diluted?
No. 2.7 ounces of wine that's drinkable to you.
Oh, okay.
Right? Again, no less than revius of wine. After it's been diluted. If it's such strong wine that it requires dilution. And now he adds, even though I told you from the Gemara.
Isn't that what the Lashon says?
Sorry?
Isn't that what the Lashon says for that non-diluted is called chaim?
Yeah, chai.
Oh,
Raw, yeah, chai, yeah, raw.
Okay.
But no, here it's saying that it has to be, after dilution, it has to be a revius, right? Now, here's something interesting. Even though we learned in the Gemara that I told you this, that the ratio was 3 to 1, right? 3 water for 1 wine essence.
Yeah.
That's true in those days where you have absolute wine essence. But here the Alter Rebbe says, if your wine is so strong that you need to dilute it, then dilute it. So how much do you have to dilute? Sorry? So it again, I don't have wine essence. The Alter Rebbe is not, and he's not expecting you to have wine essence, even in Russia. Right? So listen to the words he says. Make sure you have a revius wine after you dilute it, if your wine is so strong that it requires dilution. Not if you have wine essence that goes 3 to 1. If you have wine that's so strong that it requires dilution. Right. So how much dilution do you have to put?
Well, only if it requires it.
So which means if it requires, how much do you have to put?
3 to 1.
It's only 3 to 1?
Oh, however much is necessary.
Oh, the shir mizigel, if
Right.
the amount of how much you have to dilute is based on how much the drinker.
Right.
To what point do I enjoy the wine?
Right.
Because again, he said, a revius after dilution, if it's so strong that it requires dilution. Okay, well, it depends how strong it is. Depends on your taste.
Right.
Why? So that your drinking should be pleasant in such a way that it expresses your freedom. It's back to what we said in the Gemara. Right. The Gemara told us that if a person drinks non-diluted wine, then his obligation to drink wine he fulfilled. But he hasn't done the mitzvah perfectly because he missed out on the freedom element. How are you missing out on freedom element if it's undiluted wine?
You're not enjoying it.
You're not enjoying it. So how much you have to dilute? For your enjoyment. To your enjoyment. And therefore, if he drank it raw, without diluting it, so now the wine is not to his liking. If he has the right amount of wine in each cup, which means a full revius. So this is important because if I diluted it, I would actually have, I want to make this clear. You have to have a revius in your cup, a revius of what you are drinking, whether it's diluted or undiluted. So if you're drinking undiluted wine, if it's less than a revius, you didn't do anything. Even though that less than a revius wine would turn into a revius if you were to dilute it. Follow? Let's say you're going 3-to-1 ratio in the old way. So you have now a shot glass of a quarter of a revius of wine, which would turn into a revius. If I drank that, it counts for nothing because I didn't have a revius in my cup.
Right.
Okay. Right. So now, therefore, if I drank it raw without diluting it, if I have the requisite amount in each cup, I have the revius. Then I fulfilled my obligation to drink 4 cups because technically I drank 4 cups of wine. And I'm not obligated to re-drink it. Right? But I haven't fulfilled my obligation to enjoy the freedom of that cup of wine because it was too strong. I mean to say, he did not partake of the mitzvah in its best possible manner, which is you're supposed to enjoy it. Yeah, but we the assumption about our wines here nowadays, says the Alter Rebbe in Russia, we're not that strong, and don't require any dilution, which certainly would be the case for our wines here in the West, where we have beautifully prepackaged wine that's delicious. Sorry?
My early days, I was wasted by drinking the wine. It was hard to continue.
So now that you learned that a revius is 2.9 fluid ounces, you really don't have to be drinking that much.
Right.
So as we're going to learn soon, the cup has to be full, right? And it has to hold the revius, and you have to drink most of the cup, which means if you got a cup that was 3 ounces, contained 3 ounces, and you drank, and it's full to the brim, and you drink, 2 ounces of those 3 ounces, that's enough, which means you're drinking a total of 8 ounces of wine throughout your entire Seder night.
Yeah,
There's no reason to be hammered.
Yeah, sure.
We just like to have big fancy bechers.
Right.
That's your problem. You don't have my problem and my delight. But it's
fill it up 8 ounces into 1 becher. Oh no, the becher needs to be full. No,
the becher has to be full.
but you're only responsible to drink under 3.
Okay, you have to drink a majority of the cup, not a majority of the revius. So your cup has to have a minimum of a revius, but you have to drink the majority of the cup, as we're going to learn. So if you have a bigger, yes, you have to buy smaller cups.
Yeah.
For the Seder night, it's very important to buy smaller cups. And we do it. We find like 4 or 5 ounce cups. You can buy 5 ounce cups. And it's not so much if you drink 5 ounces. If you have a 5 ounce cup and you drink 3 ounces 4 times, spread out over a few hours, not so much.
Right.
But I like the bigger cups. On purpose, no one's forcing me.
David bought a becher in Israel, one of those fake antique bechers. I think it has like 18 ounces of it.
Sorry?
It's like he pours in half a bottle of wine to make Kiddush on Friday nights.
What's the ounces to liters conversion for understanding?
Okay.
8 ounces is
Sorry?
250
ml.
ml.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's not a lot of wine.
Right.
Anyway, so tomorrow, God willing, we're going to learn more about the amounts of what Halacha 18 is going to give us the measure for what a revius is, which actually comes from later in our Gemara, which we didn't get to yet, because before the Gemara gets to that part, the Gemara inserts another halacha, which I want to analyze with the Shulchan Aruch. So some of the halachas we're learning are going to come from later in the Gemara, which we didn't cover, but you'll forgive me that it's a little bit out of order. Okay. Have a wonderful day. And even though we're learning that the wine has to be drunk in order. Okay, with Hashem's help, here, good news. This is.
Hi. Man, the first year after I came home, when I tried to do Gary Makpid in my family Seder, I had like way too much and left, and it was a disaster.
Well,
but
okay, we'll learn the halachas of that. I'm serious, because if a person regurgitates the matzah and the wine, he may be obligated to do it again.
Really?
Yes, and we'll see soon. lo pashut, because you didn't consume
Right.
it. It might, and it becomes a question then, because you can't drink 4 cups of wine straight. You have to break them up. So what do? Lo pashut. So, but anyway, again, there's no reason to have this kind of cup for your wine.
Right. I think that's what I did.
Get
And
smaller cups.
And I lost track. I think of the fourth one. Did I have 4? And I just have a 5th one just to be sure. And then,
Okay, that's
and
also
I downed them
Shiloh's
too.
Kapanim. And especially us that our minhag is to drink the entire cup.
Yeah,
right.
In the.
So so I said that before. You're drinking majority of the 4 cups.
Downing.
But let's just say you're drinking the whole thing, because that's our custom to drink the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you have 4-ounce cups, it's still not so much.
It's a chug.
It's 16 ounces. It's not a lot of
Chug
wine.
it.
16, chug, you drink. Actually, not allowed to chug. It's one doesn't drink like that. That's not appropriate. Certainly not for a mitzvah. You drink the wine, but if it's 4 cups that are 4 ounces each, it's also not a lot of wine. 16 ounces of wine over 3 hours is a lot.
No.
It's not a lot. Just have a smaller cup. That's all.
Right.
Okay.
But the way that you drink it, it says it has to be the vias achas.
And first of all, I didn't say vasachas. He said you shouldn't drink all 4 cups of wine with vasachas.
No, but the first, each cup is the vias
Right.
achas.
That doesn't mean chug. Drink it. It's just not appropriate to refer to a mitzvah as chugging.
Right, of course.
To do that, it's just not appropriate.
So what's shouting the vias achas?
Where did you see vasachas? Where am I reading that?
Before, not all 4 of them. I'm just saying each cup.
Where did he say that?
I don't know.
And even if he did say that,
Right.
the vasachas translates as,
In one shot.
so that's it.
So
Drink it in one shot, as
mm,
opposed to drinking, putting it down, drinking, putting it down.
Right.
It's a chug chas v'shalom.
No,
Chug
okay,
mitzvahs.
right. Doesn't mean like you're like chanting.
I can say again, that's not appropriate language. Okay.
Right.
Wonderful day, Yidden.